What is up, everybody? It's time once again for Marvel on RMD Secret Invasion Edition. I am your host, the one and only Bobby D. In the studio with me, as always, are David.
Hello.
And Steven.
Yo.
This week we will be breaking down, I guess, what we would call the mid-season finale if we are breaking down normal television shows.
Oh, yeah?
Episode 3. Now, I think I'm just going to get to the end, because it's probably the most important thing to talk about, in my opinion. How long has Rhodey been a Skrull, like, here? Like, is that what are we under the assumption that he could have been under control for a while? Or what are your guys' theories here, David?
Well, it seems like he's probably been a Skrull for a while, because Fury's wife made the conversation between them made it sound like she knows that Rhodey has been a Skrull, because especially when Rhodey says, no, you're not going to talk to him, you're talking to me now. So I'm thinking he's been a Skrull for a while, which really, I don't know, changes the game when it comes to kind of like, especially the thoughts of like Armor Wars, if that ever comes to fruition.
Oh, it's going to be a movie now.
So does this play into Armor Wars? Because is that the whole point? Like, Rhodey's been a Skrull this whole time. Well,
or
the real Rhodey shows up.
Where is the real Rhodey?
It's tied up in some...
Was the real Rhodey ever real? Did real Rhodey lose his legs, or did Skrull Rhodey lose his legs?
That's what I was trying to figure out, especially when I wanted to know if you guys ever noticed, did this Rhodey ever walk with like any limp? Because remember, we know that Rhodey was going through the last time before this we saw him, he was healing up still. So if he's just walking around all normal, then we could probably say, well, maybe this isn't the Rhodey we know from Avengers Infinity
Yeah,
War.
he was still wearing mech leg attachments.
my special legs.
My special legs.
Mama said these are my special legs.
Yeah.
Braces.
But he didn't have that on when he was in his duty blues. So
they weren't regs.
They weren't reg.
And we know that basically the Skrulls at this point have taken over a ton of people in the higher ups in the government.
All levels. Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have a Matrix scene where they're just all batteries.
That would be really creepy. But
like, I feel like if I was to end the show, because I honestly don't think in 3 episodes we're going to get any kind of conclusion. I think it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I don't think you can sum this up nice and neat.
It's more of an advancement of a storyline going into the Secret Wars, right?
Sure seems that way.
well, I think that basically it's probably going to come to an ending for Nick. It has to come to that. That has to be. I don't think Nick Fury is going to be continuing after the series. Do you guys think that he's probably continuing?
If there's a
into
paycheck in it,
He'll
be doing
yeah,
it.
he would do it if there's a paycheck in it. But I mean, like, by all accounts, we know Samuel L. Jackson isn't signed on for anything else past this, right?
I don't know, man.
It is one of the most interesting things that they did, and kind of what are the ramifications going forward? Because again, Cheadle is due to be starring in Armor Wars.
Yep.
You know, which is supposed to be the whole War Machine story, which allegedly Punisher could be in.
Yeah,
you know, we've heard so many different like rumors when it comes to it, but to find out that this man could be an alien this whole time, like, it's like, okay, I don't know what we're getting at here. And then you start thinking about back in episode 2 when he's letting them go. You know, does he know he's running back to his wife to set him up at this point?
You'd think, because, dude, we're dealing with twist upon twist in this series. I've noticed that out of all the series me and you have seen, Bobby, so far in Marvel, this is the one that has the most, like...
we have a spy. We have
a spy.
Infiltrated people.
You don't know who to trust.
And I think that's what's really working for the show is it puts us as the audience in the same shoes as Fury of not knowing who you can trust, and then those people that you may have trusted your entire life with your closest, deepest, darkest personal and professional secrets could very well, you could have been duped. So again, if he can be duped, the spy of all spies, then what does that say for the rest of humanity if the Nick Fury cannot suss these people out?
Although I do get a sense that there is, I think he still trusts his wife after everything because he knows that he knows that she's a Skrull.
Yes.
I mean,
I think that was
really obvious that basically he knows, oh, who are you talking to? Is it something that I need to know about? And that banter, I love that banter between him and his wife because Fury knows that she's a Skrull. So it wouldn't surprise him if she's dealing with Gravik and everybody and all the Skrulls that are all over the place now at this point. And part of me says the only other person he would trust is Talos. That's it.
It's certainly leaning that way. I mean, within the
within
the,
is a really that relationship is just toxic.
It is. But how much of that toxicity is because of Nick and how Nick is as a person?
No, it's very true. I mean, I was laughing this episode. The dialogue between Talos and Fury was at the best.
Oh, I agree.
Because it had me just laughing every single time because it went from spy show to buddy cop show to comedic buddy cop show because like both of them obviously like each other. They both can't stand each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like my favorite part of the entire episode was like Nick Fury screaming at Talos, "Oh, thank you, Nick, for saving my life. You're welcome, Talos." And it's like, it's that sarcasm that I'm like, going, they just hit it off just perfectly in this episode.
But even within the Skrull community, they don't even know amongst themselves who they can trust. They're all...
they all don't trust each other.
Well, there's a lot of double agents within the
you can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Correct.
I think the Rhodey aspect is an interesting thing, but I also think it was,
and it's very subtle too because it's not like a smack you in the face. It took me a second to actually realize, wait a minute, that's Rhodey.
But is it legitimately a good thing, or was this a Hail Mary at the end to keep people intrigued to talk about it? Because the episode itself was, in my opinion, mediocre.
It was very plain. It was a plain Jane episode.
Like there was nothing out of it that stood out of it other than the fact that, okay, we have a double spy situation. And and then Rhodey.
Yeah.
And that the wife is a Skrull, and that Nick knows.
And then you have the moment that we think Gaia dies.
Yeah.
Where I still say I don't believe it.
It seems to not give her as an actor more opportunity because she is a big name. Seems very...
unlikely that she's dead. I wanted to pass this on to you guys because I thought about this idea. I don't think we're going to see any major superheroes. So Fury, obviously Gravik is a super Skrull at this point. He has all 4 powers. He is the quote.
Well, we know he has Extremis.
He has Extremis, but he's obviously a super Skrull.
Yeah, he would have done it to himself first.
I honestly think Fury's going to need someone to deal with that because there's no way Fury has the power to deal with someone like a super Skrull. So I'm thinking that Gaia turns out to be alive because she turned herself into a super Skrull.
When she realized it from the computer?
Yeah. And then that's why I was like thinking she probably has the Extremis. She got shot. Well, we all know that the Extremis will easily heal that. And it gives Nick someone to at least deal with Gravik in the end. Because he needs someone with superpowers. And I don't think we're going to see people with superpowers.
It's an interesting theory, and I would buy that. And also, again, if Rhodey is actually captured and they free him, I could see that as another option. with Stark Tech,
With Stark Tech and War Machine coming
and War
in.
Machine coming in. I don't know. It's just, it's an interesting like mix of emotions again for me, because I don't know what this episode did for me. And I try not to put too much of my opinion on it, but in watching it, I just was like, okay, it again, outside of a few moments, it was very forgettable. I thought the scene, where we have the conversation, I'm drawing blanks now, where they're getting the tea.
Oh, with Talos and Gravik.
Yeah, and I like in my head, like I remember seeing that scene in like the previews and thinking that it was going to be some kind of like overly intense scene, and the acting between the two were good, and keep my daughter's name out of your mouth and everything else, like it was there. But in the end of it, I was just like, I don't know if I expected more out of that, or maybe I just. I don't know. Like it was good, but it didn't like do anything for me. It was like, oh, and maybe it's because I saw it in the trailer.
Well, it's also because like, I think now this is my opinion on the story so far. The one thing that has taken away from at least the story that is Nick Fury and the whole Skrull invasion is this side story of Talos and Gaia, where it's just kind of like, it's just there. And to have that conversation of Gravik and Talos center around that story, that the importance between them is Gaia. And it had nothing to do with Nick, had nothing to do with what the Skrulls were doing. It solely was Talos going there and telling Gravik, hey, hands off my daughter. Don't drag her into this. I will kill you. And I agree with you, Bobby. It's kind of one of those scenes that I liked because the acting was good, delivery was good, but because it's tied to the storyline of Talos and Gaia away from Nick Fury, because Nick Fury has nothing to do with this storyline, it's kind of just there. And that kind of takes away from the scene, because I'm with you. I mean, the first time I ever saw the scene was in the trailer. And I was like thinking, oh, this is going to be epic. Gravik is going to, you have all these Skrulls pop up in the cafe and surround this one character. Obviously, there's going to be a fight. There was no fight. And that's the big thing about this series, too, is like I've been hearing is like people have been saying there hasn't been these big fight scenes that you'd expect.
Not yet. We got 3 episodes.
That's the thing, though. It's taking halfway through the series to get to a big fight scene.
And again, it's weird to compare it to something like a Jack Ryan that is out right now. So where you do see a lot more gunplay, fight scene type scenarios. Like there's a little more action involved in it, and you're dealing with a show that is very similar in the spy culture, corrupted government, etc. You know what I mean? It goes along with the same kind of themes that we have now. And I think when you deal with Marvel, you're always looking for something. And other than 3-4 people getting shot this week, trying to think.
Let's see. There was Gaia. Gaia got shot.
The 2 or 3 guards.
2 or 3 guards. The one guy got shot. That they tried to get the passcode from.
Yeah.
So that's 4.
But it wasn't anything spectacular. It was like a blood packet in a shirt getting shot. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And again, maybe I'm looking for too much, but I think at this point, when you're halfway through, and none of our we haven't had an action, and I don't expect Nick Fury to go hand-to-hand combat with people. That's not what I expect, because we're looking at what is basically a broken down old man at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I just thought there would be a lot more going on, especially when you kind of set it up with that opening chase scene going in episode 1. That there was a lot more going on, and it's slowed down a ton for me.
The one thing I'm curious though is like from the get-go, we've been saying that this series, this is what we expected for a spy film. Now the question becomes, what is your guys' definition of a spy film then? Because I could see people thinking spy film and they think Mission Impossible. They think, James Bond, action, you're going to have those action sequences. When I was thinking of spy film, I'm thinking classic spy film, like, as funny as it sounds, going all the way back to North by Northwest.
I was going to say Hitchcock,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I consider that, I was expecting that, because when you say spy film, I think film noir.
I think it has a very Hitchcocky kind of feel to it in that, like I said, we're always, as the audience, we're trying to piece the puzzle pieces together just like Nick is, but we get to see even more than what Nick gets to see as a character, which actually makes it even worse for us as an audience compared to Nick, because we have more cards on the table that we can see, and it's making us question ourselves.
That makes me take it even further and say, do you think that Marvel fans were expecting a spy film like this, or were they expecting a spy film like Mission Impossible? James Bond.
I don't think even based on. I think based on the trailers, potentially. I think some of the secondary marketing material where they played up more like, you don't know who's who. But like we said last week, I think a lot of people probably just want to come in and see a lot of beat 'em up, and you're not getting much beat 'em up.
You're not getting a beat 'em up, and it's even more noticeable in this episode.
and it's very dialogue centric.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in my head when we talked about a million plus scrolls, like, and I wonder if Nick Fury is the problem.
What do you mean the problem?
I'm just trying to think if like we separated Nick from this and it was just about the scrolls and how they've like infiltrated the system, and we had weekly episodes of like the scrolls are this and that led to Secret Wars.
That would be, I think you're onto something there. You're onto something there because like it's then Secret Invasion is less of a personal story.
It
is more of how they've infiltrated.
Yeah, how they infiltrated
the invasion.
how they invaded the world.
I think you can't separate Fury from it because Fury's responsible for what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who 30 years ago made these deals and everything in the first place. This is his problem. He created it. It's now his job to rectify it. Whether that's his personal belief that he has to fix it, he just hasn't overtly expressed it through dialogue saying, I have to fix this. But regardless, as a character, he created this problem of the scrolls being here.
But I think also Bobby's bringing up a good point is like it probably would have been better if they showed the ramifications of us.
I think we will see those ramifications before the end of the series. And I don't think this is setting up the Marvels so much as it's setting up
Secret Wars.
No, Armor Wars.
You think Armor Wars will...
I think it's setting up Armor Wars and what the fallout from this is going to mean for going full tilt into armor. Who are they fighting against in Armor Wars? The only possibility is either it's the fallout from this, or what's his name from Iron Man 2? God damn it!
Whiplash?
No.
Hammer.
Yeah. Hammer Industries.
Hammer Industries. Yeah. I think you're onto the. I think it is going to be. Armor Wars is going to be probably bleeding out from this. But there is something that's just nagging in my brain that basically I think this is going to tie more to Secret Wars. Because there's something... It is bugging me up to this point. In 3 episodes out of 6, Nick Fury has not stated why the hell did he just disappear on everybody. Everyone's telling him this is the problem, you just disappeared. And never once has Nick Fury said, this is why I disappeared. And I'm waiting for the big reveal of that, and this part of my brain is like saying the reveal is going to tie into Secret Wars.
Well, so here's the deal, though. Before we even get to Secret Wars, that's 3 years off.
It's 3 years.
Before we even get there, we've got Captain America: Brave New World. That's next year. About a month and some change, or a year and a month away, let's say. Thunderbolts, Blade, which will have no impact whatsoever.
No impact whatsoever.
Deadpool, which who the fuck knows what they're going to do with Deadpool. Fantastic Four.
You'd think, just as a comic book fan, I thought that this would
Right.
actually be tied to the Fantastic Four.
And before you even get to Secret Wars, you have the Kang Dynasty, which means we have to pull in all the multiversal elements of Kang, provided that
They recast them.
something happens in that situation. That all happens before we even get to Avengers Secret Wars. I don't think this is teeing something that far out.
No, you got a point, because I didn't realize that it's that far away.
Yeah, and if it's going to be Kang Dynasty, and then a year later Secret Wars.
And so what's the next one that's coming up?
The
One right
very
after
next film is Captain America: Brave New World.
And Loki is the next series.
this? And Loki is the next series. And we know that Loki is not going to tie into this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but
I think
I
it
don't know
still
why
has
you
to.
would
I think that still has to tie back into the whole Kang situation.
Kang situation. And I think that's going to be later. I mean,
But again, we got a lot of stuff between right now and then that I don't think there's a direct connect.
is Armor Wars still even on the docket?
Let me look up and see.
Because if Armor Wars is taken out,
Because it was supposed to be a series, and then they upgraded it.
Yeah, because Disney was losing money on the series. They didn't want to do anything that big in a television show.
It says absolutely nothing of merit on the official. I mean, we know that the
Okay.
cast is Don Cheadle and the writer. We know the writer. That's all we know right now.
Yeah, as of 3 weeks ago, Marvel put out something, June 13th, basically. And that's when I think when they renamed Captain America: The Brave New World from New World
Yeah,
Order.
yeah.
New World Order.
And it says Captain America moved to 7/26, Thunderbolts moved to 12/20, 2024, Blade 12/14, 2025, Untitled Deadpool movie 5/3/24, Fantastic Four moved to 5/2, 2025, the Kang stuff 5/1, and Secret Wars is now 5/7, 2027.
Christ.
It makes you rethink of what anything is. What is this show doing?
No, it does. It absolutely does.
Are we doing this show because it's in the can and we're gonna have to try to remember what happened for the next 4 years?
So here we go.
Oh, that'd be horrible.
So here's two pieces on Armor Wars coming from one of the producers. When you're talking about a show that wants to be about seeing all the cool armors and, Don Cheadle interacting with all these armors and sort of the legacy of Tony Stark, that became kind of cost prohibitive to do as a show. And so we realized as a feature, not only could we get into some of that beautiful imagery that is from publishing, and there's certainly an Armor Wars run, but also there's ways then to leverage the ideas of that movie and affect other movies down the line because of the movie tie-in. But then it goes on. Though Armor Wars currently has no release date, it was revealed at D23 in 2022 that it would be taking place after the events of Secret Invasion and will tie directly into that.
Okay, so we know that Armor War will tie in to Secret Invasion. So I think this has to deal with definitely Rhodey being a Skrull, and we get the real Rhodey shows up.
Maybe.
Don Cheadle's 58.
He looks
Really?
great. He looks great.
Yeah,
I just had to look it up.
I guess I never would have guessed.
Don Cheadle's 58.
How old is Samuel L. Jackson now?
104.
104.
58. 2027. That is 4 years away. Homeboy's going to be in his early 60s when that thing comes out.
Jackson is 74.
Yeah, this is his last rodeo.
It goes back to aging workforce. I know I bring it up a lot.
No,
but you don't think about
fair.
that. But you start looking at these actors like Samuel L. Jackson and Don Cheadle. I mean, I knew Don Cheadle was around for a while because he was on like fucking Bernie Mac and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and shit like that.
Spin-off show that was supposed to be a spin-off from Fresh Prince that didn't happen.
Booker?
I forget what the title
It was called Booker.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm on his wiki. Don't think I knew that. Just out of fucking. But you know what I mean? You're talking about a dude that's been around since the late 80s, early 90s. That's how I knew he was older.
Also, this explains probably also why there's not much action in this because, no
Steven Seagal style, like we're going to have to speed everybody up if they really fight.
No offense to Samuel L., but I don't want him doing wire work and real incorporated fight scenes.
Well, he won't.
In his age.
No, he won't be doing none of that, man. It's all going to be a stunt double with prosthetic masks, just like Indiana Jones did. But I mean, hell, we got to Bobby's point. John Travolta, 69, Denzel, 68, Jamie Foxx, 55.
Jamie Foxx is 55 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So by the time Jamie Foxx is in Spawn, he'll actually might be dead himself.
Well, yeah, that who the fuck knows when that film is actually going to happen.
I always just love when I know this is a side fact, when you'll see like updates coming from Todd McFarlane. Spawn is still in the works. I've had meetings about this, and we have a great crew, and we are still working through with Blumhouse, and then that's all he says.
And that's all he says.
Every single time.
I saw one yesterday from Blumhouse that said, with the writers and producers strike,
Bobby, it's kind of like how he releases toys. He shows the toy before it ever comes out, and then doesn't say anything else.
And then 3 years later,
and then 3 years later, the toy comes out.
So, the time frame again for all this, it just brings up a lot of like questions of flow.
Yeah, because now that you paint the picture right there for the timeline for Marvel, it's difficult for me to actually see, okay, what is the importance of Secret Invasion then, unless they're just telling a one-shot story about Nick Fury and the Skrulls. I don't know how people are going to take that when they get to the ending and then there's nothing.
We don't know if there's nothing. I mean, you could let Samuel, this could be his last hurrah, and that could be okay. To send him off in his own show, essentially. It is his show. Because so he's 74. You'd have to think they would start filming Secret Wars within the next year and a half-ish. By the time Secret Wars comes out, he's going to be,
he's going to be basically Mr. Glass.
Yeah.
No.
In a wheelchair, getting wheeled out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we think about timing and we think about how this wants to conclude, I'm really starting to feel like we need the Empire ending here. That this just ends like on shit.
I think it needs to. I agree. I think it needs to be somber. I think it needs to be something that's impactful, where it's like, holy shit, there's some real gravity to it.
I'm thinking of The Matrix going, when he goes to the architect, or Men in Black, where you see the screens of like everything that is going on in the background. Like Fury walks in and realizes how bad the actual invasion is.
Yeah, like they're literally everywhere. They've controlled everything, and barring the Thanos situation and possibly the forthcoming Kang situation and Ultron, arguably. But outside of those three situations, the Skrulls have been controlling everything until shit got bad. Then they just kind of like dipped out.
They backed out because, I'm sorry, Thanos shows up. I have a feeling that Skrulls were like going, you know what? We're going to just back away from him.
And I feel like you have to somehow explain that when Hydra had secretly infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, how were the Skrulls not aware of that?
Well, you got to remember, Talos did mention that Gravik has no idea what humanity can do when they're backed up against, a great amount of force.
So how were they, if they had all these plants and all these different high levels, how would they not have been aware of either during or the aftermath of Hydra? They would have.
That just brings up a big question.
Unless they were a part, some of them were a part of Hydra or helped. You know what I mean? Like maybe Hydra was a smokescreen.
Well, no.
Set up.
You got to figure the whole invasion thing happened after 1995. I would say Hydra was already around by then.
Right, but if Skrulls are taking a human form and infiltrating all these levels of government, not just our government, but world governments.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
they have known?
They would have at least figured out, like, oh shit, Hydra's real. They can change into anybody.
It brings up a lot of questions, especially if Nick knows. Can you imagine if you have the reveal that Nick knew the whole time how everything was turning out? And then you get your empire ending very somber because it's kind of like, here's the last quote unquote Avenger out of the first phase, and he.
Well, it's like we said last time. If all these things are possibly true, then it makes everything he's ever done hopeless
and
pointless. Helpless. Yeah, it's like
and pointless.
Yeah.
Put all these people at risk.
For what?
Killed a bunch of his friends.
It almost makes him somewhat like Captain America, who, in that he has a strong compass. I don't want to say moral compass because his moral compass is questionable at times, but at least a compass to always try to do.
He's got Jack Sparrow's compass.
Right.
Yes.
To always try to do what he believes is right.
Right by the people, even if it's horrible.
Right.
The only saving grace of it is if the whole point of the Avengers just comes down to Fury knew Thanos was coming. That was the big bad.
I wouldn't even say maybe he even knew that he was coming, but could he have known other things? And you just never know with Fury.
Well, it brings into question the one thing that I've always wondered about, like the Infinity War, Infinity Saga. Fury's nowhere to be found. If you actually see him when Thanos shows up, Fury's nowhere. Fury doesn't do anything.
If Thanos' snap took away half the world, wouldn't it have taken away half the Skrulls?
That too.
Yeah, it took half of the known universe. It wasn't just Earth.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I'm just starting to think here, like, now do these guys upset because they missed 5 years of their life now and they knew they're not protected and that's what turned them?
But here's the thing though, Bobby.
Like like, would that be a play?
Well, you didn't protect us. You didn't protect us with the Hydra invasion if we didn't know about it. You didn't protect us from Ultron.
You didn't protect us from Thanos.
You didn't protect us from Loki's invasion. Loki's invasion too. The first Thanos invasion, if you will. The actual Thanos invasion. Ultron. You done fuck all.
Half of us ended up dying and we still don't have our own world.
And you don't have your own world.
Well, they came back. They blipped back.
It really makes a question about, like,
who's the good guy?
Who's the good guy? And also, what does this do for the legacy of the past Avengers and Nick Fury? So
you always got to be careful because yes, you are treading on the thing of like, R. Kelly's music wasn't good enough to get over his accusations, but Michael Jackson somehow was. If you want to use that as like a reference.
That's an interesting reference.
But right? Like, they both did some fucked up shit, but Michael Jackson got a pass somehow.
That is
to some people.
True.
He had superior music.
Because his music library was better than R. Kelly's.
Yeah, I mean, he was the king of pop.
And so
R. Kelly was the king of pee.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's always weird when you see the repercussions, and I think we're going to deal with that in the movie because I saw a lot of articles this week that a lot of the things that they were doing was making Iron Man 3 more relevant.
Oh yeah,
to the thing with the extremist stuff. because it was one of those things like that was honestly one of the only Iron Man things that I knew like back and forth. When it came down to storylines, it was one of the ones that I like really look forward to, and it was kind of lackluster. And so the fact that they've brought it back in this is, brought a bunch of people up going, oh, we like, what is going on with it. And you wonder some of the things that they do here. And we saw that in Loki somewhat, to where they fixed and retconned somewhat some of the things that were done in the past.
They tried to make other things that weren't popular more relevant.
Yeah. But if they work this case that we find out that the Skrulls are doing this because they were done wrong by Nick Fury and the Avengers, are we ruining the sanctity of the other movies?
Well, so here's another interesting thing, though. If Brave New World, it got a title change.
Yeah.
And if it's next on the docket, depending on where they go with this Rhodey situation and even
Super
Fury,
soldiers fighting super soldiers?
Well, it could just, that Brave New World as a subtitle can take on a whole new meaning.
That's where we get the start of our new Avengers.
Well, it's Captain America, Brave New World. That Brave New World
means he knows that they're out there and he's fighting them.
And he's fighting Skrulls.
He's fighting
or
Skrulls.
dealing with the fallout that Rhodey, one of the Avengers.
Oh, forget Rhodey.
Or Nick Fury.
Everybody on top in that is a top tier in the government. I mean, yeah, Rhodey's important, but if the president
Right. It's a Brave New World.
If the president is actually found out to be a Skrull, oh, that's a huge thing.
I mean, it's possible, because why not have the super soldiers, if they, I don't know who's been cast in it.
I've got it in front of me.
All right. Who we got?
Well, I mean, we got, Harrison Ford is going to play Thunderbolt Ross, and he's going to be a Red Hulk.
Red Hulk, yeah.
Seth Rollins.
I don't think they've announced him. I'm looking for big characters from the past.
Liv Tyler is coming back as Betty Ross, allegedly. There's this guy, his name is Tim Blake. No, he's playing Samuel Stearns. You'd know his face.
Oh no, that's the leader. That's the leader from the Hulk.
Is it?
Yeah. Samuel Stearns. He's the one that turns into the leader. Big green head.
Is he? Because that's the same guy that was cast in The Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk.
Okay. And Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel
Which could
L's
be
back.
anywhere. Who knows how that works?
Yeah, Samuel L. is cast. So maybe he's not going to get sent off into the sunset.
One day ago, Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, making his return with Marvel's Captain America Brave New World. Sources claim spotting him on set.
Yeah, I saw that too, yeah. So is that a flashback, or is that...
Well, I mean, because that could be a flashback to, and that's how Samuel L. Jackson's in it, too.
Could be.
Could be.
Or it could be a scroll.
It could be a scroll. A scroll of Steve Rogers.
Emily Van Camp, Sharon Carter will be in Brave New World.
Hugo Weaving apparently is in Brave New World.
Really? Carl
After he wouldn't come back for the other movies?
Yeah, after he wouldn't come back for the other movies. But apparently on the cast list online, Hugo Weaving is listed here.
Interesting. Carl Lumbly, that was the original super soldier.
Yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah.
Isaiah Bradley.
We're going to get some Florence Pugh. We're going to get Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Yeah, and
As Valentina.
And there's Hugo Weaving.
But here's the thing. Okay. How crazy would it be? Because I thought about this, and I'm thinking about also how it connects to the comics. But, like, how crazy would it be? In Secret Invasion, you find out so many people are Skrulls, right? You find out the president is a Skrull. He gets, obviously, the presidency gets denied and, probably gets removed from office because, hey, he's a Skrull. Mm-hmm. And what if that's when we actually have President Steve Rogers? Because we know that happens in Marvel. Steve Rogers becomes president of the United States at one point. And he's already old. He's already an old man at this point.
Would they, though?
And if Chris Evans is spotted on set for Brave New World, would it be crazy to see President Steve Rogers? And that's probably what you were alluding to, Bobby, in the very beginning, is about like how Secret Invasion's gonna end on a somber note, where we find out you can't trust anybody. There's so many people that were tied to the Skrulls. They destroy, facets of our government at that point, and you have to have people come in a Brave New World type of moment to pick up the pieces. That's where we can possibly get President Steve Rogers. We can get, Hugo Weaving returning as the Red Skull.
Do you know Seth Rollins is Hispanic?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah.
His real name's Colby Lopez. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, never mind.
Yeah, not the most wrestlery of names.
Well, it's just he wrestled under Tyler Black for so long. I wasn't really sure what his real name was, and then I saw him on the casting thing, and I was like, Colby Lopez. I was like,
that's not Colby Lopez. That's Seth Rollins.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
So they're bringing just reading here really quickly that they're bringing in another Falcon as well.
Yeah. That one guy that basically was his assistant.
I did not know that.
I mean, so it's going to be interesting if the New World Order ties into this, like, as the next in the lineage of what they're doing here. I could see it working out that way. Again, we have our super soldier program to potentially fighting against super Skrulls.
Yeah, that'd be one hell of a reason to have to bring back the super soldier serum hunt from a Thunderbolt Ross.
From Thunderbolt Ross.
He's got to protect the world from this super Skrull invasion.
And you have Cap coming back. You have Isaiah Bradley coming back. You have all the super soldiers coming back.
That's why I was looking. I was looking to see who was cast as it, just to see who they were bringing in. As far as who's listed so far, and it's really light. So I'm assuming D23, whenever that is this year, will have a lot more bang to the buck when it comes to announcements.
I think so. They have to.
Yeah, I was wanting to see if like John Walker, Wyatt Russell, and some of those other people were cast in this, where the New World Order could be, again, getting super soldiers together, working together to fight off or push back. But again, even if that's the story with that, where does that end? That we have a good note, like, oh, we have them under control, but we still have 4 years later for Secret Wars.
That's why I don't. Now that you guys actually brought up the timeline, I don't think Secret Wars has anything to do with this.
I'm not sure that it does. I think by the time we get done with Kang Dynasty and whatever happens there, it's going to lead into that Secret Wars. Yeah. And Secret Wars, I think, is going to set up, I think, what we all want Secret Wars to be. Hopefully. But
I think, like, especially since right before Secret Wars, you have Fantastic Four. So I honestly think, I think Fantastic Four, Reed Richards, and we're going to probably have a Doctor Doom moment for Secret Wars, because that's a given. And I think that's where that tie-ins for Secret Wars is. I think Secret Invasion in this part of the Marvel storyline has nothing to do with Secret Wars. It can't. It's too far away.
I don't think it does. What's really interesting, and even when they announced it, just having back-to-back the Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars, those aren't two things that immediately go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Well, they kind of do. I mean, you gotta remember the original Secret Wars did have Kang, and it was the team up on the villain side of Secret Wars was Kang and Doctor Doom, and then you had the Beyonder, I guess, you had everybody.
I guess when you sequence the three of them together like that,
because when I'm thinking about it now, because you have the Fantastic Four right before them. That's where that's going to sequence. Me.
It just on its surface, it's not. It doesn't.
Again, guys, these are all speculations by three fucking nerds.
Yeah, we're trying to piece
that have nothing better to do than speculate.
We're trying to piece the puzzle that Marvel
to make this make
sense.
sense.
Yeah, to make it make sense, because like And I mean, think about it, Bobby. They simply did this to us simply by having the possibility that Rhodey is a Skrull this whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the implications of like what in the world does that do to the entire Marvel storyline?
Yeah, and then who else is part of this? It would only, I mean, especially if you think about them being able to take, I know the Super Skrulls just happened, but
Yes.
you wonder what like possibilities there could be, because you always think about they could only take the form of other human people. You know what I mean?
They can't copy, at least before the whole Super Skrull thing, they couldn't copy powers.
Yeah.
The whole point of the Super Skrulls was because Gravik said the Super Skrulls are being made because of these superpowered beings.
Yeah,
that are
we
being
need to
shown
be able
up.
to fight.
Yeah, they need to be able to fight them.
So that's why I was just wondering. It's like Rhodey, Tony.
I don't think you're going.
No, I'm just going through, like, you know, the people that they possibly could. Hawkeye, Black Widow. Like,
Hawkeye's one, definitely. Hawkeye, they could have taken him.
you know what I mean? Like, those are the only people that they could take over.
But here's the thing, Bobby. Do you think they would really go that route? Because we got to remember, now, comic book wise, Secret Invasion, Tony Stark was a Skrull. That was the big thing. That was the whole thing, is Tony Stark a Skrull. Would they really go back?
What if that's how, like, the Tony Stark thing is?
And Tony
like,
Stark comes back. That's how it is.
he's been locked up in the battery chamber. And it was Skrull Stark that snapped.
You get angry at me for tinfoil
Look,
hat.
I got to put on a tinfoil hat when I'm trying to fill an hour of fucking show on something that I didn't think was that good. So I'm either really good at hosting, or, you know, to expand this as much as I can, or we would have been done fucking 30 minutes ago.
Dude. I am so happy because you're the one who just came up with the tinfoil hat, and I want to applaud you, because only I thought I would be the one to ever come out with a crazy thing about.
I mean, if we're going to
Tony
bring
Stark showing up,
if we're going to bring people back, you know what I mean?
it would be the easiest way to do it.
You know, him and Rhodey both got captured.
Welcome to my boat, Bobby. Welcome to the boat of the crazy people with the tinfoil hats.
So with that, let's get to our final thoughts. David, camera's on you, so I'm going to let you go first.
Final thoughts on this one. Just like you said, I mean, it's a very simple episode. It's not bad. By far, the series.
Our discussion was better than the episode.
Yeah, I think the discussion that we had and the speculation was better because of the questions that the surprises gave us. But overall, the episode was really simple. Nothing much really happened. I had a 71 for this episode because it was just middling.
Uh-huh.
And my main pros for the episode was I love the dialogue and banter that Nick Fury had with Talos. I love the dialogue scene between Talos and Gravik. That was really cool because we finally got to see Gravik's motivations, for God's sakes. But just like we said, by the end of it, I was left with, okay, well, where did this lead us?
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like it didn't lead us anywhere yet.
Okay. 71. Steven.
Yeah, I'm going with the 70, and I like this. I like the guessing that it's causing me to have, or all of us to have, and the speculation of who could be this or who could be that. But by the same token, I found myself more during this episode and just in general this series compared to past series on my phone as much as I was watching. In terms of like being distracted, it's not sucking me in and keeping my full undivided attention.
Yeah.
Whereas even She-Hulk, I was not on my phone. So I gauge a lot of that kind of stuff
Based on my phone time during television. You know, I agree.
Absolutely.
No, trust me. If I get distracted by an Instagram reel over what's going on the television,
exactly.
What entertainment is better for that 3 minutes or whatever I was on my phone?
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's how I have to judge it.
I'm gonna give it I'm low. I'm giving it a 65. Again, I didn't think it was a good episode, but I didn't think it was movie. And I think our conversation that we had about the episode and the theories that we came up with were way better in the episode. Again, there were strong scenes, there were strong kind of themes and things that were going on, but it was a very forgettable episode for me. So that's why I went with the 65. That'll give us a 69 overall. I wish I said I could have made that up, but I had a 65 in my head the whole time. I didn't adjust that based on your score to come up with 69. I promise. But we will see again for this being the halfway point of the series to see how the second half goes. Remember, however you found us, remember, rate, review, subscribe. It helps out the show. If you want to hear more of us, go to raymandigitalmedia.com and we will talk to you next week. Thank you.